Hey, this is Matt once again. This is another video. This is a paid request for Mr. Leeman. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any other topics, it could be a topic, it could be a ranking, it could be a list, it could be a reaction, it could be your commentary, a review, pretty much any type of video, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, this is a topic because he said he knew I like the Ninja Turtles. I did grow up with those characters. Kind of a general thought process on them as characters. Which is my favorite? Which do I like in order? Why? A discussion not on the movies, not on the franchise, but on the characters as themselves. And I thought of like how to do this, and I guess it's sort of, I kind of think of it as I'm pitching a movie and someone says, oh, these are not characters, they're just action figures. And me explaining, no, why. I'm not saying you would put this all in a movie, but in a series of movies, these could be details you could incorporate into why I think these characters could be given much more than they have been given in terms of the movies and the franchise. Now, my favorite is Raphael. He's my favorite because I can understand his anger, I can understand his hot-headedness, I can understand his frustration. Plus, as a character, he is the one more of the tendency to be violent and deadly and vicious, and in terms of action, in terms of what I look for in action, of all the turtles, he's the one I could buy more into being either a beat-down brawler or breaking bones, or if it comes to that way, to kill, snap necks. That's why I kind of think of it as kind of a John Rambo. If John Rambo, like if Raphael was human, he would grow up to be John Rambo. And that's where my avatar, however you want to say it, came about. Because I'm like, I'm a big fan of Rambo, but I'm also a big fan of Raphael. And I went, you know what, again, if Raphael was human, if he was born human, he would have grown up to be John Rambo. The same, he wants to do the right thing, but also a bit of that fuck the world mentality. He's got inner demons within himself, but he's willing to help and save people, but he's also willing to be violent, especially when someone he's close to is hurt, or someone he cares for, or someone like Ko in Rambo 2. Rambo's like, oh yeah, you want to kill Ko? I'm going to get a C4 tip explosive arrow. I'm going to shove it up your ass. And Raphael would do that for his brothers. That's the way I look at him. And this is a guy that I can understand his thought process the most out of the four. Because if you were born in the sewers, if you were stuck there, if you could never go outside, if you could never go anywhere without worried about being found out, being shot, being hunted, if you had to worry about your brothers being caught, being experimented on, being dissected, if you had to worry about all that stuff, and to not have freedom, to not be able to do anything, hell, to not even go out and get laid if you want, like any teenager wants, all this stuff, all this frustration, you would be angry as well. You'd be upset as well. You'd be pissed as well. That's what I mean. Like, if all of them, he's the one I understand the most. Like, okay, that makes, in a weird way, more sense to me. And also this inner turmoil of, I like that inner turmoil of, you're a good guy, but it's like, no, I'm not the bad guy, and you want to try to be better. And that inner turmoil is a lot to work with. Kind of like Wolverine and X-Men. Like how people view Wolverine and X-Men. Whether comics or movies or so forth. And I remember the 2003 cartoon, which was mimicking the Raphael one-shot, where his baby brother Mikey is just playful, but is picking on him, and, oh, you're not good enough, and why are you so slow, and why are you this and that. And Raphael loses it and grabs something, is ready to hit him with a pipe, which could have given him brain damage, could have broke his skull open. And when he gets stopped, this immediate shock and horror of, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and runs off. I think there's so much more you could play into that. So much more of, who am I, what am I, why can't I get this calmed down? Can you use it like fire, like a burning fire? Can you use it in a controlled way? Like, not against your family, but against who you're fighting against. I think there's a lot you play that up against, and that's why I think if you wanted to take them seriously, he would be the right choice for a lead character, because there's a lot you can play into that. Whether it be a crazed state like Mel Gibson and Lethal Weapon, the first one, or any state. That angst, that drama, that tension, that frustration, that self-hatred, wanting to get better, all those attributes that can be incorporated in that, I think you can really do that to the Raphael character. And even some of the formats I liked in the first movie and the 2003 cartoon, I liked the addition of the voice being a bit more New York, a bit more Brooklyn, a bit more of that different personality because of that, even voice-wise. All that, plus the potential of what he could do fight-wise, brutality-wise. Granted, they're all ninjas, so they all have that opportunity to do that, but Raphael just seems more natural to do it that way. All those combined, I think, is why Raphael was always my favorite of the four. Now, my second favorite is Michelangelo, the baby brother of the group. Now, I enjoyed his carefree attitude. I always thought that him and Raphael were the closest of brothers, where sort of a yin and yang, whether you want to call it like a buddy cop type of thing, or where he's like the only one that could deal and understand Raphael, while the other's like, why you put up with all this? Well, I make fun of him, he chases after me, we have this sort of simpatico going, and maybe Raphael's the type of guy that treats him not as a kid, but sort of on an even playing field. I think that he's a guy that looks at the world and at times hides behind a smile, at times hides behind a laugh, doesn't let his emotions play out, because he feels like he's got to be, how do I put it, he's got to put on a fake smile to make his brothers happy, or to make his family happy, to not deviate all the troubles and trials and tribulations of the world onto the family. So, hey, I gotta make them laugh, I gotta make them smile, I gotta entertain them in some way, gotta be an attention whore, so to speak, so that they'll forget about their daily problems. And then maybe Raphael's the only one that sees through the fake smile and calls them out on the BS. And you can have this thing where Raphael calls him out on the BS and sort of centers him down so he doesn't float away with how optimistic he wants things to be. Raphael's the guy to bring him down to reality, but then Mikey could be the guy that keeps Raphael from going over the edge. And I think there's a lot of potential with that type of stuff. That's why I always thought if you did a franchise, the first story should be Raphael almost doing that to his baby brother, but then his baby brother gets captured and he goes rescue him, and by the end they have more of a deeper brotherly bond, and then that goes forward to other characters incorporated in other movies. And Michelangelo, depending on how you write him, could be rather funny and could be rather entertaining, could maybe maneuver a fight scene like Jackie Chan. I would say of all the brothers, his fight scenes, I think more of a Jackie Chan quality, whether you're using props, using other stuff. Plus the nunchucks, one of my favorite weapons to be utilized in film. Now, from what I understand, John Wick, someone showed footage of the new John Wick film, and John Wick uses nunchucks, so that already has my approval of seeing that film. Because I already said, that's something that needs to be used more in movies. We need more nunchucks in movies. We need more of that used in films. There ain't enough nunchucks. Always loved that as a weapon ever since, Bruce Lee used it back in the day. I don't know if he's the first to use it, but he's definitely one that helped popularize it. I always thought Raph and Mikey had a good, potentially a good banter, kind of like Mr. T and Dwight Schultz on the A-Team, B.A. and Murdoch, and again, that buddy cop banter that you get some chuckles, and I got that in the 2003 cartoon. And even some of the bits of the first season of that 2012 cartoon, and then by the middle of the second season, it just went off the rails, in my opinion. But yeah, Mikey was always my second favorite. Now, number 3, I would put Donatello. Always did enjoy Donatello. And sorry about all the background noise. People have construction, or there's the wind, they got their radios playing. I don't know what it is. I'm doing a couple videos in a row today, but it is what it is. But Donatello, I always enjoyed. He has sort of a softer nature character-wise, and that's another guy that you look at and you go, imagine all the pressure he has, where he's got all of this stuff on his shoulders. He's got to fix everything. He's got to sew up injuries. He's got to be a doctor. He's got to be an inventor. He's got to make all their stuff. Because it's not like they can just go to a Home Depot and buy stuff. It's not like if their brothers get hurt, they just go to a hospital. So you got to think about all that stuff about having to fix bullet wounds or sew up cuts of your own family, your own brothers. What kind of deal that could take on you? What kind of ordeal that goes into your head and fucks with your head? And all that pressure of, well, if I don't know what I'm doing, then they're going to die of blood loss, or we're not going to have any heat for the winter, or we're not going to have any stuff in order to survive. And maybe this is a guy that kind of just escapes into his room and seals himself in his room, and he stays there and he doesn't really go out. And maybe it takes Raph or Mikey or both to get him out of the room, which then you can develop that character even more. I thought a lot of the voice actors he's had, other than Corey Feldman did not work in the 1990 movie. He just didn't. The guy, Adam Carl, in the second movie was a much better voice. And even though I liked his voice in the 2003 cartoon, liked his voice in the 80s cartoon, and maybe he has a softer type of sarcastic humor. And yeah, I think the Donatello character has a lot of open avenues to offer. And then Leonardo, yeah, I don't hate any of the turtles, but if I have to pick a least favorite, it would be Leonardo. Maybe because he's in such opposition. My favorite character, Raphael. He is the leader. Because of where he's at, he's the guy that is pretty much the star. But to me, yeah, there's development of his character where he's always about his teacher, his sensei, and he wants to do the right thing, and he wants to make sure to be the proper student. And if he fails, he'll be like he's failing his brothers, he'll be like he's failing his father, and he doesn't want to fail them. And he's very uptight because he thinks if he makes one false move, his brothers will get hurt or get killed off, and especially when they go in battles, when they go out there. And that's why he's so uptight about everything. It just, to me, it's not really a character I like to follow story-wise. It's not really a character I like to be intrigued by story-wise, but there is development in detail with him. And I don't think he's a bad character. I don't think he's a terrible character at all. Not in the slightest. It's just because he's the leader, obviously he's going to get more of the shine in terms of stories, when I'm preferring Raphael or Mikey to get more of the shine. Again, that's just a personal preference. But again, because he's such opposition, because there are a lot of times in stories where Leo and Raph will do the same thing, but yet Raph is the bad guy, Leo's the good guy just because. Those are one of my issues with the 2007 CGI Ninja Turtle movies, that they're both doing the exact same thing, but Raph gets ragged on and Leo gets like a medal. I'm like, wait a minute, you both did the same thing. You both went off to be a hero, had a persona, fighting bad guys as a vigilante. You were given a moniker, Ghost in the Jungle, or Night Watcher. But yet what you're doing is so good and what he's doing is so bad. It's just so hypocritical and so... Like, the movie didn't know it. Like, the movie didn't know it, didn't realize it, didn't interpret in that fashion. Can't even say it right. And it's like, what? That's why Leo just came off as a hypocritical dick in that movie. But they do a better job, like the 2003 cartoon, where there was a bit where he was stabbed in the shoulder, they were all left to die, and then the next season he's so upset that he failed, and it was by luck that they survived, and he doesn't want that to ever happen again, and he's training harder, and he's... Like, again, there's character motivation and development you can get into. And he's the... Other than Raphael, he's one who's willing to kill as well, but he's definitely much more of a honorable, more fair of a fighter compared to Raphael. I'm more of the fan of the down and dirty fighter. More brawler, and more violent, volatile character. So I still like Leonardo, but of the four, I guess he would be my least favorite. But it would be Raph, Mikey, Don, and Leo. Now, granted, I mean, this is all stuff you could incorporate into stories and characters, and people say you can't. I'm like, yeah, you can. I just gave you a little bit of what you could do, but no one wants to do that because, number one, Nickelodeon has it. They will always look at it as a kid's property. It always will. And that's just how it is. And how it will always be. There's nothing we can do about it. And it's just how it is. And shit happens. So, that's just my general thoughts on the characters. What you could do with them. Granted, Hollywood would never do that because if you did, there would be people willing to see it. But to them, what I said is something that has not entered their heads. You're crazy. Yeah. I'm sure people said, well, you take Batman seriously, maybe people would work. You know, after Adam West Batman and how campy and silly. It's like, what if we had like a serious Batman? A serious Batman? It's a guy in a bat costume and a cowl. We mean take it seriously. Now if you try to be silly, people get mad at you for that. So, go figure. Again, you don't know until you try. But no one wants to try. And the closest was either the 1990 movie or the 2003 cartoon. And you'll never get that again. People are like, what about Batman vs. TMNT? To me, that was silly when the villains all became villains, but they're mutants. Yeah, there were some violent parts to it, to be fair, but there's really nothing to the turtle characters. They still love pizza, pizza. And it's like, if it was the turtles, it's campy. And just add in the villains do a couple, more vicious things. But other than that, I mean, not a whole lot to it. And the one part of the story they took out, which was the most interesting, which is Batman showing Raphael, I think where his parents died or something, and trying to get him to sober up as to, what family is. That was like in a comic. I'm like, oh, I look forward to that. And then they cut that part out. They didn't put it in. I'm like, that was like the best part of that comic, and you didn't even put it in. Okay. Make room for the villains being mutants. Looking ridiculous. And lousy fight scenes and whatever. I'm going off on that. You're too picky. Yeah, you're right. I am too picky. That's just how I am. It's like my food. I'm picky with my food, I'm picky with my movies, I'm picky with franchises. It's just how I am. But with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.